All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kathryn Sutton. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the senior UX UI designer, as Jenna mentioned, here at Aten Design Group. For about 8 years now, I've designed websites, logos, brand identities, illustrations, icons, and design systems. At Aten, I've had the pleasure of working on dozens of clients in the nonprofit, education, and government sectors. So for today, we're going to step aside from the usual web-related webinar and focus on one of my personal passions, which is logo design. Together, we'll unpack aspects of logos, look at some well-known examples, and walk through a project that I created here at Aten. I want to leave you with a better sense of what it takes for your organization to achieve a timeless, beloved, iconic logo. As we get started, picture your current organization's logo as I ask you these questions. First, how old is your logo? Is that a good thing or a bad thing, do you think? And why do you think that is? Is your logo an authentic representation of your organization's brand? Is your logo a sturdy tool in your brand's toolbox? So for instance, is it recognizable at different sizes, in color versus black and white, on dark or light backgrounds? How is your brand's visual identity doing? Here, I'm referring to all the visual representations of your brand, including not only your logo, but also your brand's colors, typography, graphic design, website design, and more. Does your organization have a strong, comprehensive identity system, or strengths and weaknesses spread throughout? Not to worry at all if you're aware of any weaknesses here. With the help of design thinking, it is possible to elevate your organization's branding with a refreshed identity or logo. So for today, we're going to unpack a few topics to understand what's possible. They are: what is a logo? What makes a logo good? What is the life cycle of a logo? When is it time to create a new logo? And finally, understanding the logo design process. So to begin, what is a logo? Well, as a quick definition, a logo is a symbol that represents your organization. A logo is meant to have a few purposes. So first, it sets the foundation of your brand's visual identity. So this means your brand's colors, fonts, graphic styles, and more should be harmonious with the logo. Next, the logo differentiates your organization from others. Logos help build brand awareness and value as people interact with it. So having a distinct, authentic logo is an asset to the brand. And finally, a logo should be a gestural expression of your organization's values, story, principles, and purpose. Next, let's review a couple quick logo anatomy terms. Today's logos typically exist as a mark, word mark, or a combination of the two. A mark is a drawing or monogram that can easily be thought of as an icon these days. A word mark is the name of the brand spelled out in stylized typography. Again, most logos will contain a mark and a word mark, but some brands exist almost entirely as a single mark, like Warner Brothers, the Olympics, and World Wildlife Fund. To the opposite end, others rely on just a word mark, like Uniqlo, Allbirds, Vimeo, and more. So now that we know what a logo is, how do you know if your organization has a good one? Well, of course, we can say that a given logo more obviously must be simple, readable, versatile, and aesthetically pleasing. If the logo fails on any of these fronts, we know that it is bad and subject to tarnishing the brand through criticism. But again, a logo's purpose is to represent your organization, and your brand needs value to help your organization grow and succeed. So any logo that resonates with people by being memorable, authentic, and positively representing your organization is really the target for what I would call a good logo. It achieves both of these things. Now, here's where I want to identify what I call logo nirvana, the most elusive achievement a logo can ever make. This is the iconic status, when a good logo transcends its inherent qualities and becomes larger than it ever can be. I'm talking about cultural status and popularity, monumental goodwill and brand value, longevity, untouchable timelessness, being synonymous with your brand, and having a prideful, loyal fan base. Loyal logos that are well sought after, merchandised, recognizable, and beloved by many people are, in my mind, iconic. As a side note, know that a good logo does not save a bad brand. Take the example of Enron, a major company once known for its innovation, industry leadership, and success story. In 1996, legendary designer Paul Rand conceived its logo. It was the last major achievement of his life and career. As most of us know, this iconic brand was betrayed by the company's scandalous collapse in 2001 due to disgraceful accounting fraud. Today, the logo is now an infamous icon, synonymous with scam, lies, and corruption. It's even nicknamed the Crooked E. As a brand's value grows over time, we often see their logos evolve. What does the life cycle of a logo look like then? This should help you understand your organization's position on the basic to good to iconic spectrum and consider next steps for your brand. All logos begin as brand new, literally, when a fresh brand is born. The logo might be basic or good already, but needs time to potentially reach an iconic status. This makes me think of emerging artificial intelligence brands like OpenAI, which has already experienced incredible success and industry leadership, but also controversy and scandal. How will people respond to seeing its logo over time? Will OpenAI ever update its logo? And if so, what might those reasons be? Let's now look at how and why brands change their logos. Most brands will endure cycle after cycle of logo updates for one reason or another. Often it is because the brand needs to keep up with being competitive, relevant, and appealing to its audiences. It may cater to current trends and preferences to keep from being out of date or stale. Ultimately, the brand's name and core identity might stay the same. This is what I call a logo evolution. More rarely, though, a logo or brand might go through what I call a rebirth. This is when the brand endures significant transformation, such as a renaming or a relaunch. The old logo and most of its branding dies and is reborn or remade into something entirely new. In other cases, though, this is because the brand's current creative direction is not sustainable or has a problematic history and social impact and must move forward. We often see this with sports teams and other brands that feature offensive mascots. At any point, a logo can achieve iconic status, as we've said before, but this doesn't make the brand immune to changes. We've seen plenty of cases where beloved, iconic brands and logos go through unpopular evolutions and rebirths. Does anybody remember the backlash when Gap launched its new logo? In 2010, the company attempted to replace its 25-year-old classic logo after declining revenue. After intense backlash on social media, the company reinstated its classic mark. And speaking of social media, can anyone think of maybe a more recent example of an iconic logo that's been rebirthed or redone? For me, one particular case comes to mind. So there you have it. Logos and their brands are living things that respond to change over time. Even the most iconic brands such as Apple, Nike, and more adapt to trends and preferences from year to year, even if their logo remains unchanged. So with that, I encourage your organization to be open to and expect exciting changes in the future for your brand. Which brings us to the next topic, which is, when is it the right time for your organization to launch a new brand or an evolved or reborn logo? Well, first, there must be some fundamental problems with the logo or branding. What can they be? Well, for one, if we remember the logo basics, perhaps it is lacking there. Is the logo convoluted or complex, difficult to read or understand, poorly designed so your team can't use it to the extent that meets your needs? Or is it just not visually appealing? In addition to that, is the logo also not good? Is it appearing outdated and pushing your brand out of relevancy? Is it too similar to your peers or other logos in the world? Are audiences confusing your brand for another? Is it difficult to remember? Does it fail to positively represent your organization? And finally, just as logos are transcendental, does your brand have issues that transcend beyond how the logo just looks or feels? Is your organization facing a critical detachment from its current values, directions, goals, from what the brand currently represents, or a poor or tarnished brand value or reputation. Now, I hope that anyone tuning in today isn't facing serious problems with their brand or organization, but know that this happens in the real world, and it can be a reason for why we see brands refresh their logos. Now, let's take a look at how your organization is growing and evolving and see where the needs for a new logo are. When a brand is seeking serious transformation and growth, such as a renaming, launching new entities, initiatives, or sub-brands, or changing its overall direction, often a new logo is warranted to express these changes to the world. And finally, to a less existential end, perhaps your organization's marketing and communication needs are just not being met by the current logo or branding, so some new work is warranted. Is your organization embarking on a major creative undertaking, such as a new website, large event, or campaign? Are you repositioning yourself to your current audiences or new ones? And related to that, does your organization need a lift in branding to reach desired audiences, to connect with them more authentically, be relevant to their lives? And to give a few more concrete examples, here are some instances when clients have approached us at Aten for logo development. First, the client was seeking a rebrand as an organization. Today, we have a client that engaged with us for a full logo design process and a website redesign. We're also exploring defining the work we've done so far and scaling that system into a series of branding collateral. Next, we've created brands that belong beneath the umbrella of the parent brand. For a recent client, we've created a logo for an annual event and a new institute. We've also designed logos for tools. At Aten, we've created branding for a few tools we've contributed to Drupal. One would be Intercept, an open source library event system, and more recently, we've launched Mercury Editor, Aten's drag and drop publishing solution for Drupal. We've also had recent clients who needed a fresh brand for a tool that we're building with them in WordPress. In summary, we at Aten have experienced a range of logo projects. Although the circumstances and needs are each unique, there is plenty of overlap in the process to accomplish these logos. Let's now get into what the design process at Aten looks like and begin by discussing teams. Behind every great design effort is a great design team. No matter how large or small your vision for the next step in your branding is, it requires great care and a solid team. Since we at Aten chiefly work with nonprofits, here is an example of what a logo design team has been like. On our side, you'd obviously be working with a designer, but the process, as we'll see, also requires a strategy engagement to unpack the project's requirements, objectives, target audiences, and more. And of course, your team will have a dedicated project manager to ensure timeline and resources are on track. Because each project is unique, the roles that show up on a client team can vary quite a bit. In our experience, your nonprofit team may include executive leadership to oversee the project and convey their vision, marketing and communications, who will likely end up being executors and stewards of the new logo and branding. Any folks who run programming or initiatives by the organization, who are familiar with audiences, use cases, and more. And finally, people from the foundation, growth, or fundraising aspects of your organization. They can represent your organization's key stakeholders and other interests. As you evaluate who would be on your logo and branding design team, it's important to have shared qualities and values to open up creativity and constructive feedback. Look for these few things. First, enthusiasm. Is there broad buy-in and excitement for this next step? Next, openness. Are people open to fresh thinking, diverse ideas, creative imagination, and critical feedback? Objectivity. Is your team able to distance their personal preferences from the project and focus on the needs for the brand? And finally, experience. Does your team have a background in creative design, brand knowledge, and cultural awareness? When it comes to decision-making, ideally, we pursue consensus across the group at every step of the way. This helps to ensure that most interests in the group are aligned on the vision for the new branding. With that, let's do a quick check-in. I'm going to ask Jenna to put up the poll with this question. If my organization designed a logo today, it would be A, an evolution or iteration of the current logo, B, a rebirth of the logo and brand, C, a brand new logo because my organization is being founded, or we're creating a new entity, or D, no change. Our logo is iconic indeed and is helping our brand meet our needs and grow. Jenna, are we good to move on?
I'll show you the results in 1 second. We're still getting some answers.
That's good.
Here you go.
Oh, this is interesting. Ooh, so most of us are looking for logo evolutions, which again is pretty common. Rebirth, yeah, that's very rare. So I would expect that. Brand new logos are always exciting, and iconic logos. That's great. That's awesome. Thank you. All right, let's jump ahead now to talk about the design process. So, like all creative processes, a logo design starts with discovery. Throughout a short series of workshops and meetings, discovery aligns with Aten and your team on the project goals and objectives. So are we, just as I asked now, are we seeking a logo evolution, rebirth, or something brand new? We'll cover what is critical to your brand's authenticity and success. We'll ask questions like, who are the desired audiences, or what aspects or attributes of the brand should be expressed in the finished work. And lastly, we'll establish tastes and preferences between us and you. We'll often show precedents and inspiration for your team to respond to, and have an initial discussion for what kind of approaches your team finds appealing. Next comes ideation. This is when we at Aten get to work exploring possible directions for the logo. We'll create an abundance of unique sketches for the mark, evaluate dozens and dozens of typography styles and configurations. Typically, this phase can last a few weeks. After internal review, we'll plan an initial presentation based on what issues we want to unpack with you first. At the first presentation, we'll typically show around 4 to 6 options. At Aten, we respond to the needs of your timeline, budget, and creative needs. With that, most clients and agencies at this point expect to show a combination of marks and word marks in each option. We've also had great experience spreading these components into a series of presentations, starting with just word marks and adding marks to the selected options. Sometimes options are presented in black and white to narrow focus, or we start with a wide net and jump into color options sooner. This is what's great about our process. We are flexible enough to adapt to your team and needs. After all initial options are laid out, we ask your team to narrow down the pack and provide feedback. Typically, this means we will continue to explore and tweak details within the logo, colors, and typography. Finally, the logo is chosen as a suite of components that can be configured for various use cases. From the first presentation to the final selection, you can expect a timeline of about a month, give or take. With Aten being primarily a website design firm, most clients engage with a rebrand or logo design, expect it to drive the direction of the website design. This is a perfect and exciting example of why an organization should evaluate its logo and branding before jumping into a website redesign. We want your website to be worth your investment and help your brand grow. And finally, the logo and visual identity is packaged and documented for your team to implement in further use cases. You can expect specifications on color, typography, permitted configurations of the logo, and more based on your team's needs. The files are then packaged up and handed off to your team. Should any further needs arise, we're always around to help. Now, let's see how this process unfolds across a project we recently launched called Neutrino Day. Neutrino Day is a free, family-friendly science festival organized by Sanford Underground Research Facility, or SURF. So what is SURF and what do they do? Well, SURF is located in Lead, South Dakota, where since the 1960s, world-class science and research has taken place underground at the site of an old mine. Underground science is key to unlocking mysteries of the universe. SURF's Visitor Center teaches science and history to K-12 audiences and hosts annual events open to the public, including Neutrino Day. Rooted in SURF's groundbreaking science, Neutrino Day's name is inspired by a Nobel Prize-winning experiment that has discovered the nature of neutrinos, which are elusive subatomic particles. Each year, Neutrino Day hosts a variety of events that include family-friendly science demonstrations, tours, hands-on activities, presentations by leading scientists, and more. Previously, Aten and Surf partnered for a major website redesign and a fresh look for the touchscreen kiosks at Surf's Visitor Center. Next, we all set our sights on Surf's premier annual event. Each year, Neutrino Day had a different theme. So Surf wanted to work with us to create a permanent identity. Our discovery sessions developed audience personas, prioritized website goals and key tasks, and we also reviewed inspirational logos with the team. We found that audiences included families, children, science enthusiasts, educators, scientists, volunteers, and staff. The brand had to balance between being perceived as a celebratory event for the public and as a host for the scientific community to share work among peers. The brand had to grow with Surf's goals to expand the event to include virtual talks, the arts, and local community involvement. And aesthetically, the team was aiming for a mark that was playful, informal, colorful, and vibrant, but wasn't too childish or juvenile. We explored a variety of themes and stories that the logos could tell. We were interested in the nature of neutrinos themselves. We explored illustrating dynamic speed, explosive particles. Also, neutrinos come in what scientists call 3 flavors, a key discovery made at Surf's labs. The Greek letter nu, which looks like a slanted V, is the scientific symbol of neutrinos, which we also found to be quite interesting. And lastly, we sought to express the event's sense of community in some way. We sketched dozens of ideas and transferred our favorites into the computer in black and white first. And then here are the 8 kind of favorites that made it out of that. Let's now narrow down the pack down to my favorite 4 and hear my pitch for each. The first logo is a fun take on the festive spirit of Neutrino Day. Here we see a colorful burst of stars and particles, evocative of physics and science. The font is a bold, friendly typeface with rounded elements to go with the logo. Next is a vibrant, cool colored option. This mark shows a bunch of particles zooming back and forth in different directions. This also represents that Neutrino Day is an event that attracts community, excitement, and exploration. The all-cap letters give this logo a strong, bold presence. The third option is a letter N, which blended 3 colors together from warm to cool. This also conveys speed, energy, and transformation. The simple lowercase typography also gives this a friendlier feel. And here's the last one. The mark is a complex yet harmonious arrangement of particles that appear like a supernova. It's paired with sophisticated, geometric, all-cap typography. So which one do you think Team Surf picked? Let's narrow down the group of 4 and make it a competition between these 2. Take your pick, A or B. Okay, I see 83% chose B. I wonder if those of us who might have come to our webinars before might have seen case studies for Neutrino Day and already know what the logo is, or maybe it's just the crowd's favorite, who knows? But yes, the answer is B. When we showed this to the team, they loved the spirited, colorful, and friendly mark. We used rounded shapes and blended those colors together to represent the fluid, dynamic nature of neutrinos. As a bonus feature, the logo has a hidden Greek letter nu, and I'm wondering if you can see it. With the logo in place, we set our sights on creating the digital home for Neutrino Day. We kick things off with a design exploration phase, creating 2 style tiles that offered options on typography, color, UI, and graphic styles that would be compatible with the new logo. Surf enjoyed the openness and airiness of this option, as well as the potential to integrate these fun geometric shapes. The fonts we selected included Sora, a geometric font with kind of a space age vibe, and Lexend, a font designed for readability. With things coming together, we began to create the website. We designed a homepage, event schedule, list of speakers, and information for volunteers new and old. At launch, the site was platformed on Drupal with Mercury Editor installed to author content. After the website's launch and handing off all of the assets, including the logos and typography and a brand guide, we've been delighted to see how Surf has implemented this brand at this year's past event over the summer. We saw t-shirts, lanyards, signage, and even temporary tattoos being handed out. All of this coming to life as families and enthusiasts spent the day learning about science. And here are a few more photos from that day. As we've seen, it's important to understand that your logo is a powerful expression of your brand, but it cannot do all the work for you. A logo and brand might be aesthetically good, but can become iconic with value cultivated over time. I hope that this webinar helps you understand where your brand's logo stands in its life cycle. Knowing this is really important when taking next steps as an organization. I want you to be empowered to make bold decisions for your brand. It deserves to stand out from its peers and authentically express what your organization is. As you think about what's next for your brand, know that you don't have to be alone. We at Aten Design Group are a talented team of people who are passionate about client service. We offer top to bottom website redesign, branding reviews, design audits, UX strategy, stakeholder workshops, user research, and more to help you identify your goals and tap into the potential of your brand story. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, feel free to contact me. And if you're interested in partnering with Aten Design Group, reach out at work@aten.io. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm now going to turn it over to Jenna for questions.